where I am.
Evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming back tonight to the Pigsty. Tonight, trigger warning. We're going to be talking about loss and loss of someone very close to Speed and things like that. So, just a wee warning. It will maybe go a wee bit dark tonight. But we'll start off just with an intro. If anybody doesn't know Speed of Sound, Speed focuses mainly... Well, you know what? I'll just let you do it. Introduce yourself and go on ahead.
If I can, let's see, I do YouTube videos. I'm primarily interested in evolution and genetics, teaching it, new theories, new ideas, and pushing back against the ridiculous pseudoscience that is infecting my country, USA, and probably a few other countries horribly with this ridiculous odd idea that the average layman can get up and somehow all scientists are in this conspiracy to push evolution, and only these few amateurs are capable of seeing through the conspiracy and understanding how evolution is false, that sort of thing. So anyway, I do that, and we do some other riotous things, whatever. Keep tabs of this little community that we're in, and Mathpig, you're in this community with us, so.
Yeah, well, you know, I would definitely not put myself in the same sort of quality as level as you. I talk and slobber, and we have a bit of back and forth. But if anyone who's watched Speed of Sound's videos, they do go into an awful lot of detail. There's no messing about. If you want to know anything, this, you know, on genetics specifically, this is where to go to. Like definitely one of the channels that will go to. It will blow your mind, the amount of stuff that they go through, and the depth that they go through. So it's definitely something to go into. Well, the first question that sort of leads from it, Speed, is what brought you to the internet, you know, and why is it you do what you do?
Well, an odd thing, Ben Stein released a movie in about 2006, I think, called Expelled. And I was in Columbus, Ohio. Bear with me on this story. And P.Z. Myers and Richard Dawkins were at the Mall of America, 5 miles from where I live normally in Minnesota, watching the premiere of that movie, or attempting to. P.Z. Myers got tossed out of the movie and started tweeting, and they let Richard Dawkins in, even though they interviewed both of these gentlemen in the movie. You know, it was an anti-evolution movie. And so P.Z. Myers was tweeting. My son saw the tweet. He texted me. Well, Dawkins was still in the movie. I signed on to the Richard Dawkins forum, where I proceeded to put down 50,000 posts that kind of represent my both on the Dawkins forum and something called Rational Skepticism. So they're like chat sites or whatever. And it kind of outlined my journey through understanding neuroscience and consciousness and philosophy. And then anyway, that's how I got into becoming an addict at giving my opinion to other people.
Well, 50,000 to start with is I love the way you put. I give him 50,000 to just sort of kinda give my opinion. 50,000 is a big number, like.
Yeah, it took until about 2017 before I got kind of disappointed with the forum, with the philosophy forum at Rational Skepticism, and then did nothing. I started watching Standing for Truth, I think, first, and he is what, and I'm like, he was talking like science words, but he clearly didn't know what he was talking about, and it drove me crazy. I'd been into molecular biology as part of my study of neuroscience, and then it was just switching over and catching up on genetics and evolution. And so I've been doing that for about 2 years, and I think I've come quite a long ways as far as genetics and evolution. And then I got into this. It was just a natural, and I wanted to, I wanted to give my opinion. The other part of what I want to do is talk about Buddhism and atheism, and naturalism and strict naturalism.
Well, as it stands, your belief system would be secular Buddhist, yes?
Secular Buddhist, yeah.
For anyone in the chat that doesn't know, do you want to give a wee bit of a background? If you can refresh your cameraman as well, it is. I don't know what's wrong. Is there anything we can do?
The only thing I can do is show it my wrinkly hands, and voila,
There we
there's
go.
a back.
We can try that and see how that goes.
I'll try not to move.
But
I'll
as
try
I say,
not to move.
for anybody in the chat that doesn't know what a secular Buddhist is, could you give like a wee summary, a wee roundup of it?
Okay, the Hollywood Buddhists, I'll explain what they are in a minute. They call us psychological Buddhists, and they do that as a term of derision. Basically, that it's about psychology. It's about how you live your life, how you run your mind, basically. And part of how you run your mind is how you understand what you are, what your basically what your meaning is, and so it's a lot of psychology. There's no, like, for instance, karma, often misunderstood by the Hollywood Buddhists as being some kind of crazy bullshit where you have a payback system, right? You just
the energy you give into the spiritual world comes back, it's
well, the actual meaning of karma in secular Buddhism would be that we get into certain behavior cycles in our lives, and we can't break out of them. We keep going around and around the circle. We keep marrying the same girl over and over again, and getting divorced. And we get into the same relationships. We create the same problems for ourselves. And until you break the karmic cycle, basically, you're not really your life doesn't straighten out. And so that's an interpretation of karma. And reincarnation is just flat out basically, if you're a strict naturalist, that you are going to die, be put in the ground, and hopefully rot and become a tree. And so you're reincarnating as a bunch of microorganisms and trees. And the idea of Buddhism overall is to get the ego out, to not sit around and say, oh, I have only so many days left, I gotta I have to have more stuff. It's like these sad ideas that we get into when you concentrate on just yourself as an individual from the inside, rather than looking at all of us selves from the outside. And so strict naturalism, I think the logical conclusion of being a strict non-theistic atheist naturalist is that you are a part of all life. That we are part of this universe, we are part of the stars, and we shouldn't try to fight that so much. We should just go with it.
Yeah, well, not that there's energy everywhere, but as you say, it's a circle of life thing. What we were goes into the ground, that gets confirmed or transformed into a tree, or there for microorganisms, and it's sort of taking what is in the not in the literal sense, in the metaphorical sense, right? Like taking what you need, and as you said, retraining your mind to take the ego out, to stop thinking about yourself so much. Right.
And in that process, you acquire this sort of peace, particularly with growing older. I'm definitely in the last third of my life, and I may be in the last few years of my life, I don't know. And accepting that, I'm going to go away, and when I go away, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen when I die? Well, very much like what was happening before I was born.
Now, would they say that, what is it, 3 generations? After 3 generations, you're sort of forgotten about anyway.
Nobody's going to remember anybody that I even know.
Yeah.
It's just like, not unless one of us write a great theorem here in the next 5 or 10 years, we're not going to be remembered. So anyway, I call, before I was born, I call that when I was still dead. And now I have this brief period here. And it's also very much like what happens every night when I go to sleep, when I go into a deep sleep. That is death, and that's what death feels like. And we get this idea that we have to, we're afraid of death because, oh my God, I won't be able to get up tomorrow, and I won't be able to post on the internet or do a YouTube video or eat a sandwich or tell the world what I think. So we get attached to this idea of more, to the point where we completely miss what's now. And that's also secular Buddhism is about what's now, embracing your life as it is unfolding in the moment, that sort of thing. So, and I listen to these creationists talk about meaning and how atheists don't have any, can't possibly have any meaning in their lives. And then I listen to them talk about how this life, this body is only some crappy vessel that they're going to discard, and this life is nothing but a life of sin and darkness.
See,
And
that's the idea. This is, you know, as you put it, this small brief instance that we are here. Things are important and things matter because of the rarity of them, because they end, you know, because they have a finite time, and we should focus more on this rather than this imaginary, you know, as you say, before when you were still dead. To them and in their mind, that's, you know, heaven, eternal bliss, and this, that, and the other, something that they've never experienced or have any evidence for, rather than taking the small amount of time that we do have here. As you say, nothing really changes before and after except your immediate family, and 3 generations after that, it is gone.
It's gone. And if we were to go to heaven and we were to have all of this just constant positive stuff going on, there would be no tragedy in our lives. And because there was no tragedy, in a sense, there would be no Christmas. Christmas is a bittersweet time of the year that people misunderstand. It's about family and love and tradition and apple cider and, you know, pine trees and and you could not feel that. You felt no tragedy at all. If you were just like, if you didn't care at all about the children that you had that ended up going to hell because they didn't accept Jesus.
Yes, I mean, that's something that whenever I first came out, I would always use, and they're like, we're going to heaven and stuff. And I'm like, right, well, you're going to heaven. Let's say for talk's sake, your husband or your wife or your partner doesn't. They're an atheist. They go to hell. Well, I never used the word atheist, but, you know, they went to hell. If you're in heaven and they're in hell, how can you be eternally happy if the love of your life is somewhere else without you? You know, and if you didn't cure, then are you really the same person you were here? It's, you know, it goes round in circles, it makes mistakes. And rather than focusing on what we have here, they pass themselves off and shift the burden, so to speak. It's like, it doesn't matter what happens here because it's fine up there. Well,
just none of that makes any sense to me. Heaven, if I wake up in some kind of heaven, I am going to be really pissed and I'm going to kick some ass. I'm going to file a complaint. I mean, when I'm dead, I won't be dead.
Leading to down that direction, and you know, as you said a couple of minutes ago, Christians would say that we have no meaning in life, we have no goals or anything like that. And personally, my goal at the minute, having a child and having a 3-year-old, is to make the world better through that. And as someone who, if we can lead into that, man, if you want to let us know what actually happened, if anybody hasn't seen and wants to hear. There's also a video link with Speed released earlier, but Speed, if you can, in your own words, let us know just sort of what happened. Like,
there's also an article that I put in private chat that basically was run in the St. Paul, Minnesota paper about my daughter and some of what happened. And I'm going to try to hold it together during this. I've got...
Feel free to icon if you need, man, or take a few minutes if you need, or anything.
My stomach's good. Anyway, let's see. My daughter was murdered 4 weeks ago today. It would have happened at 8:30 tonight. It'll be exactly 4 weeks. And she was shot by a mentally disturbed man who basically stalked her for a year. And there were all sorts of problems with that this gets into with gun laws, red flag laws, how we treat our mentally ill in the United States, and all of that. But that is all, you know, one subject. But anyway. So I went through this loss, and her and I were very close. I mean, we were like that, you know. And I am with my two boys too, and it was a shock like I'd never had in my life. For the last 4 weeks, I had been going through. He basically came out. He targeted her and decided to kill himself, and he decided he was going to take her with him because he thought she was on the condominium board and she was in control of making his floors wave up and down or something. He was just absolutely batshit crazy. So anyway, and I, you know, and I had this absolute physical shock, and grief is something that I have never, I thought I knew, but I did not know. I never felt this kind of loss of a child. I think is probably as bad as it gets. You know, that's a test. Along with that, I'm an alcoholic and I'm 14 years sober. And there were times when I really would have loved to get smashed in the last 4 weeks. And it occurred to me I have a I have a person in a 12-step program that called me every damn day to make sure I didn't, but we made it through. Anyway, so that happened, and I had to deal with her loss, and she was 52 years old. She was beautiful. She was vibrant. She was just active. She was, from the moment that kid was born, she was like a buzzing bee, constantly into something and creating drama.
Yeah.
She loved drama. if there were no drama in her life, she was like sad. She'd get depressed. But anyway, so her life was cut short at 52, and I got to deal with trying to figure out how that meshes with my whole Buddhism and going through life and dying and becoming dead. And one of the most comforting things about the murder was that she died instantly and probably didn't feel anything other than a second of shock.
Yeah.
And if she were up in heaven somewhere thinking over what happened to her, that would piss me off, or that would irritate me. It would be, I don't think according to the creationists, I don't think that's the way she would have went. That's not the direction favored. But anyway, so you have to deal with, excuse me. So you have to deal with this sudden disappearance of somebody who was a big part of your life. Like they were, and we have a hell of a time, we humans, with death. And I think animals do too, because I've watched animals sit around and stare at dead animals, wondering, like when we've had a cat that died, the other cats would, or no, there was a dog. We had a Saint Bernard that died, and I was going to bury it. And the other Saint Bernard actually tried to drag it across the yard. Yeah. And he was out there all day looking at this inanimate object. It's like all of a sudden there's no life there. There's life, there's this vibrance, there's this possibility of doing a new thing tomorrow. And suddenly that is cut short. And the way I have always put that together when I lose close friends or people that I love is I look at it as doing the epilogue, writing the end, and putting the back cover on a book. And as soon as you do that, her life, I could see it from, I remember the day she was born vividly. So her life from then, for 52 years, becomes this solid piece of a work of art. Each of our lives is sort of a work of art. And each day we write a few pages in that work of art, and we make choices that determine how that story is going to run. And then one day it's just over, and we become complete when it's over, very complete. So, I got to tell you though, that is the rational part of me that probably kicked in after about 1 week after she died. Yeah. And I became okay rationally with it, but emotionally and at a core level, I'm just now accepting that she is gone. And I'm having a hell of a time, to tell you the truth. Rationality doesn't always help you out.
Well, that's something I did want to say, that I did say to you before we went live, that I personally have watched your video at least 3 times, and that particular part, paraphrasing and using slightly different words or whatever, but you did come to the point where you were accepting of the guy that did what he did because of what he was going through, right. His mental capacity. And I wouldn't go so far as saying that you used the words that he was forgiven, but your understanding of why it happened. And I have to say that coming from a parent, excuse me, if somebody hurt my wee girl, the urge to go get a big stick and not just beat that person to a bloody death and react that way, kudos to you, man, and a lot of respect. And it goes to show that your secular Buddhism isn't just words. It is something that you actually put into motion, because if something like this can happen and you can come to the point within quite quickly, a week, 2 weeks, it's been a month, and if you can come to that quite quickly, it does show that, the strength in the way that you have retrained your brain, as you said earlier.
Yeah, I would kind of like to beat him a little bit, but but he's dead. He died within like maybe a few minutes of her. I don't know how long he was alive, but he died. And you have to look at it from inside of him. Inside of him, there was a whole different view of the world. And for me to sit around and hate him and be resentful, resentment is resentment is a poison you take yourself and expect somebody else to die, which is stupid. So I can't let those. I mean, when you look at the whole scheme of life, you can kind of see the perspective of people that do very bad things, and it is a tragedy. It's a tragedy that I plant tomatoes and they keel over and die and never produce a tomato. Life and death in biology is tragedy. It's built in to what we are, and we have to embrace that, and like it's a warm blanket rather than it's something we constantly have to run from, that sort of thing. So hating people doesn't do a damn bit of good.
No.
I'm very angry. I mean, I'm angry. I'm angry at the police who didn't listen to her. And that's another thing. This is a case of men not listening to women when they tell them that they are in danger and they need help. And that happened for about a year and a half before this man finally killed her, where she called the police multiple times. And even myself, I take on a little guilt for that, because I would tell her, okay, do this, and, get your pepper spray, and we're going to get you a gun, and, stay in your apartment and do all this. I mean, I wish to hell I'd taken it. I wish I had been more alarmed by, but then she did the same thing. She didn't know.
Yeah, the law is the law, and that's, as you mentioned in your video, you're a gun nut. You have guns as well, and it's not a problem to have them, but having the fact that a man of this mental state was able to hold on to guns.
Right. Yeah, we still don't know how he got the gun, but all that stuff is hashing out. But anyway, this has leveled me, and I think it has changed my life entirely forever. And I need to. It is up to me to weave a positive chapters from now until I die, instead of letting it destroy me. And I do know personally of a few people who have been in a similar situation and they let it destroy them. And I'm going to do my best not to do that. But I haven't done as many YouTube videos recently because I have been struggling with a physical depression that I haven't struggled with since I was a teenager. So it comes and goes. I never can tell when it goes. So there's that. And I mean, looking at, I guess what I wanted to say,
you did mention something about moving forward more into the activism of it and getting more involved.
Yeah, but not to the point where some parents let that become their poison too. When their child dies. And that's why I named that video Nothing Less Fun Than Parents of a Dead Kid, that sort of thing, because I'm not going to let this consume me, and let activism consume me and use it as it's like, oh, look what happened to me, I'm one of the, and making it me. It's not me. I do want to devote 20% of my effort in my life into activism as it pertains to basically vulnerable people being in danger and knowing they're in danger, and for some reason we're too stupid to do anything about it. So I hope that some of that will change, that we'll get some decent red flag laws in Minnesota, and we'll be able to take guns away from individuals who everybody knows should not have a gun. And that would include me if I ever get senile. Of course, I probably am already. Who knows? Maybe that's my charm.
I can ask a wee bit more about your daughter in particular. Like, with the situation, was it, she always liked her drama, as you put it earlier, always liked to be involved.
Yeah.
Was she, was it charity work she was doing with this guy, or was this guy just a stalker that she sort of got involved with?
No, he was, he actually, she owned a condominium. She bought a condominium, and his family apparently bought him a condominium right opposite her door. And she got involved with the condominium. She became a board member because of a dog poop issue. And so she was on the board, and she lived right across from him. And for some reason, he targeted her. He thought that because she was on the board, she was the one that was making his floors wave up and down, that she was spying on him, that she was, this menace, so he saw her as some sort of problem. And so she lived across from him. She had a restraining order, even though if they both came out of the door at the same time, they would have bumped into each other.
Yeah.
But she had a restraining order, and the restraining order didn't do a damn thing because the police didn't really enforce it.
They couldn't, yeah. Now
And
right across, yeah, it'd be very difficult of a situation.
Right. She didn't know him at all. We were just finding out who he is and how he's connected. One of the things that I want to do when the legal bullshit settles, when it's over, is get to know his family and try to humanize him. Yeah. Because if I don't humanize him, he's going to grow into some sort of an unreality that I don't need in my life. I would like to know the man. But anyway, so she had no connection with him, and he apparently started slamming his door, and he lured her out into the hall along with another gentleman who also got shot. And then he just came out with a gun and shot her immediately, and shot the other man, decided not to kill the other man, and went back into his apartment and took his own life. So that's what happened. Yeah. Any other questions about the...
We have a question from MOMMA. Are humans the only species that actually know that they will eventually die?
I think so. I think it's our rational constructs that allow us to foresee our death. Mm-hmm. I'm a deer hunter, or I used to be. I couldn't kill one today. Yeah. I don't have it in me anymore. But when I was young, and I also grew up on a farm where they butchered animals. Mm-hmm. And when my father would butcher an animal, he would basically kill it instantly. Yeah. And then there was no pain that the animal felt. The animal would just drop down. But I thought that was somehow more brutal than I kind of lost my train of thought. But when I was deer hunting, and there was this like dance of death that an animal goes through mm-hmm. right before they die, where the adrenaline is high and they're being wounded and all of that. That seems somehow more right than the brutal, I don't know. It's so they know death only in those last moments, and in those moments when they're afraid and they feel, the adrenaline rush, but they can't construct a time frame, and know that they are going to die. I think they do recognize when one of their own dies and no longer moves. Kittens will haul around dead kittens, for days sometimes and try to reanimate them, that sort of thing. So I guess I hope that answers it. I don't know.
Last year, I had to put, it was August past, would have been a year that Marley was dead. And personally for me, I knew that it was coming. We spent a year with medication. It was, he went from a 45 kilo dog to a 26 kilo dog. And it was not, towards the end, it wasn't good, And the 2 days between the Tuesday and the Thursday, when I'd made the booking to get him put down to when it was done, they were very difficult. Talking about it was hard and things like that, because it was a decision, right? I've made a decision now that this animal that I've had for 7-8 years, he's not well, he's been suffering, we've tried our best, and we brought him in and excuse me, and the guy gave him something to make him feel better, and then give him the actual medication, and he lay down and he was quiet, and that was it. And the vet said to me, do you need, some time or whatever with the animal? And I was like, no. And it's not that I didn't cure anymore, but I didn't feel the need to be upset. I didn't cry anymore because the dog, it's not in pain anymore. The animal was now not suffering.
Right. For him, it's over. I mean, it's like he's as Smokey Saint famously asked me, is Hitler in Nirvana? That is as close to Nirvana as you get when you no longer have any cares. We went through something with a Saint Bernard and a 20-year-old cat here in the last 2 years. We had to put both them down, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a hell of a thing.
I didn't. He offered to. He wanted to. He was like, most people. We have a wee ashes program. We can get him cremated and sent out and all. And I was like, no, he's grown. That's it. I reached down and I took the collar off, and I went out and I put the collar in the rearview mirror of the car, And that's you know, the dog's there, and I see it every day, and I would think of Marley, and you know, remember him in the good times and all that sort of crack and things like that. But
Yeah.
There's no need to keep a box of his ashes behind me, because
we actually do have Dozer on the mantle, but along with his duck toys and all that stuff. But you know, and it was 3 weeks ago on Monday, maybe 2, that I put my daughter in the ground and I watched her buried. And the odd thing, the guy at the graveside told me that Buddhists often do that. They often want to be there until they're buried, and that was kind of like me tucking her in, you know, like I tucked her into sleep. And for her, I have to keep reminding myself that she's not in any danger. She's not in any pain. There's nothing like, you get this alarm thing, like you gotta save your kid. You gotta save your kid, right? You gotta do this. And like, no, she's fine. She is fine. And that is a bitch, because she had just started talking about traveling, and she'd put some money away, and she was going to do this and do that. And she was always trying to work out how she should have a relationship. And but so she ran full speed into the end, right? Yeah. Which I think is what I want to do. The day I die, I want to be studying genetics and molecular biology and being pissed off at Standing for Truth and raw math. And I want to be working on a video and just click. I want to go full speed off the dock, right? I don't want to just slowly descend into oldness, whatever the hell that is.
Well, if I could ask a question, then I go for a personal one. But as you said, whenever you went to the grave and she was buried, and that was it. Do you, I know it's still early. Obviously, it's still early, but you know, would you be comfort in going to the gravesite again and being around the gravesite again, or do you think that, you know, it would be more comfortable being there around the actual, you know, where she is?
I think it was about day 7 or 8. I was driving out to her apartment, which is really difficult, and I started talking to her. And my son said, yeah, you know, that's okay as long as she doesn't start answering.
That'd prove you right. Well, there's heaven. I'm stuck down in hell.
yeah. But I started talking to her, and then we were talking about, oh, did you see a bird fly over, an eagle fly over? And it's like, nope. You know, I didn't even see an ibis out in the river valley. There were no supernatural things. But anyway, I started talking to her, and I think going to having a gravesite, having a marker, making basically we have all these tokens and things in our lives that little things that we hang on to, like my red kitty qualia cup, I call it. This is about neuroscience and consciousness. We have these things that we become attached to, and we become attached to lives in total. And where she is, that's still her. That she is in that ground out there. That is my daughter, and I will stand there and close to her, and that's part of it. That's part of honoring her life and the tragedy and the totality of our lives. We're all interconnected, and I've lost my best friend and my mom and my dad, and it's one loss after another, and we're still all connected. Douglas Hofstadler, I think.
The name possibly Hofstadler's ringing a bell now.
Let's see, Gödel, Escher, and Bach. He wrote that book. Famously wrote a big book that hardly anybody could understand.
Well, then probably not. No.
Anyway,
a big book that nobody will understand. No, not me.
Anyway, he tragically lost his wife. She was very young, and he was talking about how the important part about immortality is, or not. It's not immortality. It only lasts for that few hundred years till everybody forgets you. Yeah. But the people that that knew you, that are still alive, that keep you alive, and suffer the tragedy of your loss, and the what the hell is the opposite word of tragedy?
Bliss.
We should have one. It should be bliss, but life is bliss and tragedy together. And without one, you wouldn't have the other. Yeah. If we want the bliss, we got to have the tragedy.
Without the dark, you must have the. You don't see the light without the dark. You don't recognize it.
Right. Yeah, the yin and the yang. And I mean, that's that even goes down to physiologically how we see. If it weren't for the shades and the differing intensities, we could not see at all, you know. So it's basically it all knits together, and it makes good sense. And it makes good sense that we're all here for a while, and we pass on. And I don't know. It knits together, and it's beautiful. It is fucking beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if what your language requirements are in your channel, but every now and then you need to emphasize.
Do whatever, say anything here. It's fine.
Okay. Anyway, life is beautiful, and it's just wonderful. It has been a trip. I have been blessed my entire life with just amazingly interesting, sometimes tragic occurrences, and I love all of it. So
the hardest loss I would have had up to date now would have been my nanny, which was my father's mother, and they have a wee card that they give out on the funeral day, and I don't know, well, that's my granny there. It's her name underneath, so I'll not dox myself. I don't know if you can see it. I'll show it better afterwards, but that's would have been my father's mother, and my wee girl's middle name is her middle name, you know, and it's in remembrance of her, and it was very important to me that Alina got that as a middle name, you know, because in memory of her, and I have that there. That's not just brought out for tonight, like I have a picture of her, I have a picture of my daughter here, you know, wee things that remind you, and it's about remembering the people. Yeah. You know, they live on in us. They live on in us talking about them, and you know, bringing them up and things like that. I can't eat a packet of Jaffa cakes without thinking of my nanny, because my nanny always had a packet of Jaffa cakes for me, you know. Yeah. And it's wee things like that. Just give me a minute. I have to take a minute. It's wee things like that you know, you talk about them and you tell people about them, and it's as dark as this video has been thought of, and this, that, and the other. It's in remembrance of her, and it's to tell people about her, you know, and to keep that memory going. Yeah, and that makes the colors of our lives. If our lives were just all happy, it would be boring as hell. That's why heaven just doesn't work. I mean, the whole concept of heaven just doesn't work, and it would be it would get real boring quick. It would. It'd be like going. I don't know if you remember Sunday going to church, you know, or whatever. They used to drag us to church when we were little. It was a hell bad. Actually, I was on my route to being a junior soldier. But as you say, man, it is. You have to have the dark to have the light. We have to have these things that make the other better. They do make the other better, and they make them brighter. And we can't just keep going on forever. You know, well, if we did, we would change into something else all of the time. There was a book called Red Mars, Green Mars, I think it was, and they were immortal, or I think they'd worked out how to extend their lives for 400 or 500 years, and they didn't even remember the first 200 years at all. They were very different people. So yeah, like I don't know if you've known, there's a show that I do love. It's been out for this long time, 90s or whatever. It was called Lex. And there was a particular episode where a particular race of people had figured out, just as you say, how to extend their life. And it had got to the point where the only thing that could kill them was an accident, you know, or, you know, something like that. So they didn't remember the first few hundred years of their lives. All that they could remember was being afraid, not wanting to go out. And only, as they called the people of true age, the younger ones who were, you know, in and around the 90s age, but they're running around like they're 30 and 40. They're breaking the rules, and they're trying to go out, and they're like, we want to live life. What's with all these rules that we can't go outside and we can't do this? And they're like, a brick could fall on your head, don't go outside. You know, it's became more obsessed with being alive than actually living. So it doesn't matter how long you live. It's about living now and living in the moment, and taking what we have, taking enjoyment from it, the simple pleasures in life, you know, spending time with your family, building memories like that. There's days and days and days and days of people wasted just watching TV around each other while they all look at their phones and not interacting with each other. You know,
right.
and not getting to know the people closest, right physically fucking beside you. And I know that's cliche because we're on the internet here, but you know, I'm sort of. But when you look at screens, it does extend everybody to the world. But when you're around your family, spend time with your family, get to know your family better. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, and with that comes, you know, the other side, the tragedy, you know, the dark side of the cloth, and the two things really knit together very well. That's kind of the essence of Buddhism, is understanding that the two things must be together. You must accept one with the other, and you know, it becomes a richness in your life. Like my drug addiction and alcoholism, which has I've been sober probably about 60-70% of my life, maybe even 80, but the 20% that I was using, really, I mean, I used hard, and they contributed to the tapestry of my life. And they're like, I've been asked, would you change the fact that you're an alcoholic and a drug addict? You know, would I go back and erase all that? No, I wouldn't. All of that, all of that crazy, all of that tragedy, all of that, I mean, I would have been a lot richer today, but I wouldn't change. I wouldn't pay that price to erase what I was, and having embraced both the dark and the light side of life. I mean, it's all part of who I am, and the part of what makes us us, you know. And I couldn't be who I am today without all that pain, you know, of my addiction and my losses in my life, that sort of thing.
No, I know it's cliche, you know, but to live without regrets. Once you've made a decision, the decision is made. Once that's happened, it's happened. And focusing on it, and you know, it was like, well, this is awful and that was awful and I wasted this amount of time. Well, if it was wasted, stop thinking about it. Focus now on moving on and focusing. Yeah,
like oh boy, if I got into regret, I would be totally screwed.
Yeah.
You know, with my daughter, because we had, you know, I mean, she would almost weekly tell me about an incident with this guy, and you know, we talk about it and try to work out solutions. And at no point, you know, somebody from down south said something about they would have went over and killed him or had their brothers kill him or whatever. And it's like, I don't, you know, when you start thinking about that kind of stuff, there no good comes of it. No good comes of it. I mean, shit.
It eats at you. And I have to say, man, as me and Amanda were saying when we watched the video, I think it was the second time, again, kudos to you, and you know, being able to go to that point and having that sort of calmness, being also aware about, you know, aware of your emotions, aware of what you're going through, but being able to sort of lift yourself out and be aware of that, as I keep saying, it's shocking. You know, it's just being able to go through that, and an awful lot of respect for you, man. An awful lot of love for you as well. You know, if anything you need, the community's here, and even just a rant or scream or anything like that, you know, we're all here.
I got a like when I was 7 or 8 years old, my mom was taking me to the Presbyterian church, trying to save me.
Yeah, we were
and I became an atheist at around 8 or 9 years old, and got into Buddhism when I was 16 as a result of a religious experience. One of those eye-opening, mind-blowing, the world lights on fire, burning tree experiences. And I came up with that understanding of, you know, the two sides of life, and all of that has made me who I am, and it's helped. And I don't know, and I lost my train of thought. We were talking about something right prior to that. I was going to make a point, but I forgot what the hell the point is.
It'll come back to you in a couple of minutes. It'll come back in a couple of minutes.
Anyway, it's fine. I don't know. Life is just so goddamn cool. You know, it is so cool to have been. You know, there was a time before I was here, and then there will be a real long time when I'm not here anymore. But the time right now, I mean, we are. You know, we get to be, and that's kind of the essence of Buddhism.
In the long scale of things, considering that the universe is what, close to, I've seen things from 11.5 to 14.5 billion years old, and the human race, as a species, to get back into the evolution and stuff, like, we've only been around for what, 500, a million years, the hominid species as it is, Homo erectus, what, 250,000?
Couple million developing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put something in chat here. On her funeral card, we printed this, I think it's the Desiderata. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Look it up and read it. There's a line in there that the universe is unfolding. Yeah, the Desiderata. There's a wiki article on it. That the universe is unfolding exactly as it should, and that's sort of the essence of what secular Buddhism is. That you accept that the universe is unfolding as it should, and we all have our beginning and our ending, and it all makes sense. The tapestry of life. We feel deeply. We feel tragedy and we feel joy, and we could not feel joy without tragedy or tragedy without joy, and we just have to accept that. And I think it's a trip.
It makes it stronger as well. When you go through something with somebody that's been really bad, when you come out the other end, you're closer and more understanding for it. Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, I've accumulated tragedy in my life. The loss of my mom, my dad, my mom, two brothers, some beautiful dogs that I absolutely loved. Like Midas was like my soulmate, and so you accumulate this tragedy in your life, these losses, and at some point it ain't going to be a bad thing to be able to just take my last breath and put that down, and close the cover on my book and say, okay, now it's complete, that sort of thing. This idea that we have to have more days. Yeah. It's like, what do we do with a day anyway? We usually just piss it away, we just on the internet or whatever,
I've said to Amanda, like, if I get to 117, purely because 17 and 7 sort of like a crazy numerology thing that I have running through my life, that's right. 7 and 17, and I was like, if I can get to 117, I'll be happy enough with that. That's plenty of years,
Yeah.
That's loads of years, and expectable now with the way medical science is going.
Yeah, I've got a lot to do yet, but I don't want to get obsessed. Like when I have like, you remember Smokey saying, oh, he didn't read any of his books. I've got like 2,600 technical books and textbooks in my library.
Yeah, BRAINBUG.
And I've read maybe about 10% of them. And I think, oh my God, I've got to hurry up and know everything because I'm going to die, that sort of thing. No, I run full speed every day, and one day I'm going to run full speed right off the end of the dock. But I want to be going full speed when I hit it, and I don't want to get to the point where it's like, oh, I gotta be greedy about how many days I have. I know there's going to be a back cover on my book. And it's going to be cool. And I hope to hell you guys laugh your asses off on the day I die. I'm probably going to die for you guys. I'm 69, almost 70. I hope you understand the absolute hilarity of life and death, and the way I've lived, that sort of thing, and embrace that.
Whenever my nanny passed away, her sister lived right beside each other. The two of them lived beside each other. And her sister had passed away before that, but the point I'm making doesn't matter. Whenever funerals had happened in, coming up to that point, you had my nanny on one side and her sister on the other, and you would go into my nanny's house after the funeral, and you would have your tea and your biscuits, and everybody would be sitting round. Her sister was a wee bit wild. You'd go into Irene's house and you go to the kitchen and she's pouring vodka. And they're all sitting talking stories about, do you remember when she did that? Like they're next door having their wee time and what you need. And then you go into Irene's and you laugh and you joke and, and you remember them that way. Whenever my nanny passed away, we did the same thing. And then about 15 of us took over my uncle's local. And we just sat there all night till like a lock-in, and we all drank and had great time and talked about her all night and remembered the good times. And it's, focus on the happiness. I've said to Amanda and I've said to other people, whenever I go, I'm going to make sure that I have a little plot of a beach Over here, you're going to Viking me out into the water with a marquee on the beach, and everybody's going to have a party on the beach. Just, that's it. Remember the good times.
I tried talking to my sons and their friends into stealing my body and planting me out in the woods under a willow tree. A weeping willow tree I would prefer, but anyway, that'd be a good way to go. But that's, I don't know. Keep losing my train of thought here lately. Must be getting tired.
No, that's fine. We're coming up to the end anyway, man. I've got a question from Randolph. Does Speed of Sound have any ideas on different coping strategies that non-religion people can use?
Coping strategies. God, let me see. Acceptance. I belong to a 12-step program, which some people think is religious, but there's a hell of a lot in there. The Desiderata that I posted. Okay.
I can't see the live chat at all, man. I'm honest with you. I can't see it. I've been posting it. I don't know if I'm in the right one, but anyway, I can't see what they're posting.
Maybe I can find it. But it talks about the universe unfolding as it should. The main part of I think acceptance is or the main part of living well is just accepting what is happening and accepting it without bucking it, without fighting it, without resenting it, without constantly going back and saying, oh, if I'd done this, or if this had happened, or that son of a bitch did this, or whatever. It's pretty much acceptance. I don't know. So what could you read the question again?
Any ideas on coping strategies that non-religious people can use?
Yeah, it's acceptance is the biggest part of life in general, and not trying to change things, not trying to control things, accepting that the universe is unfolding as it should, which is a line from that Desiderata, which I printed on her cards at her funeral, because it's just the most beautiful poem. It talks about the flow, basically the flow of life, and how you go gently through life, and you don't try to grab on to things as you go by them. You try to touch and let go, that sort of thing, and that's all Buddhist bullshit too. It's I
would agree with that. I would sort of I would down the Stoicism sort of route, and it's if it doesn't affect and you can't do anything about it, it's sort of, it would be similar along that line. So I don't see any more things from the chat. So if you have anything that you want to add, man, that was what I was going to say. Is there anything you want to say about your daughter? But the poem I think was perfect for that.
The Desiderata, if you could, I could put that in private chat so that you have it.
Put it in the live chat, the name of the poem and the poet. I'm not sure where you're posting, but I can't see your live chat stuff.
I did once.
There we go. That time it appeared.
Yeah. I spelt it wrong. Desiderata. Let me try to get you a link, and you can post the link. It's a beautiful poem. It's worth living by every day. It's basically about acceptance and about not the whole thing with Christianity that bugged me. And I don't know a lot about Christianity, but the thing that really bugs me is that they're just constantly putting down this life and waiting for another one, which is never going to happen. And that is incredibly bad. Let's see, Desiderata, Wikipedia. Let me post a link for you. This pretty much tells you coping. And another part of coping is do not fall into the trap of resentment, because, like I say, resentment is a poison you take yourself hoping that somebody else will die. It does you no good. Learn how to accept that other people have a perspective, and if you were in their shoes, obviously, if you were fully in their shoes, you would do exactly what they did. And that's a hell of a pill to swallow sometimes. But in my life, it's helped me greatly. So, and secular Buddhism. I talked about Hollywood Buddhism. I just want to mention that. Those are the guys that think that you come back as a bug, or like you reincarnate, or they have some other really ridiculous ideas about karma and things like that. And I call them Hollywood Buddhists because they have nothing to do with the reality of Buddhism. Is a philosophy for how to live your life, that sort of thing. So anyway,
Amanda and Brian have chosen to send me messages in the live chat saying I sent the question and call me names rather than just resend the question so I could ask it. So if they would hurry up and send their freaking questions again, we've got 2 more questions and then we'll round up. Question for Speed. Does it comfort you to know she will never feel pain again?
that she'll never what?
Feel pain again.
Oh yes, yeah, and that I am so grateful that she died as instantly as she did, and she did not suffer those last minutes. She was just having a beer, watching TV, got lured out in the hall, and almost instantly died. And the fact that she, for her, it's complete. You know, everything is complete. Like I say, that girl loved drama, and she would call me twice a day with just completely all just, you know, all bent up and wrapped up in something, and all of that is, and when I saw her in the coffin, she was so at peace. I had never seen her like that since she was a baby. Since she was a baby, and yeah, that's comforting, knowing that this pain that we're feeling, that we're all feeling, this family, it's us, and she is protected. She's in that warm blanket. You know, she's protected from it. That's very. If she were, like I say, if she were in heaven or hell or in some reincarnated form, I would be a little irritated with that. I think. I don't know. That would be tragic. That would leave questions. Go ahead.
Brian's question is, what's your thoughts on euthanasia for the terminally ill?
Well, you don't want to kill them, but letting them choose to kill themselves. In Minnesota, we have a law that if a doctor doesn't give you enough morphine to be comfortable when you're dying, he loses his license. And but in 1980, when my father died, when I watched him die of cancer, they did not have that law. And when I went up there, they had not given him morphine, and he was he had lived 3 days longer than he should have, you know, because they were withholding morphine from him. Yeah. Because as the nurse told me, well, if we give him morphine, it'll kill him. And I said, well, you called me and said he was going to die within the day. What? And she said, well, we can't do it. So yeah, euthanasia, like the laws that they have in Oregon, where you can go ahead and choose to end your life. I will choose to end my life if I get a terminal disease, at the point where I'm becoming, you know, where my life has slipped away to the point where I'm nothing but a pain in the ass, where everybody's sitting around saying, God damn, die already. Yeah. You know, that I'm going.
As you say, go off the dock full speed. Go off the dock full speed.
What's that?
Go, as you said earlier, go off the dock full speed.
Yeah.
Question from Ginger Nation. As someone who is he's new to Buddhism, what would you recommend? Would you recommend reading or something or any?
Everything by Ellen Watts, starting with Beyond Theology. So let me put that in the chat. Ellen Watts was a secular Buddhist, though Kafei. Have you ever run into him? Kafei. He's always on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, him. Okay. He thinks Ellen Watts was, you know, believing some sort of spirit BS. No, Ellen Watts was a secular Buddhist, and if you read Ellen Watts, he will first of all, he'll give you a beautiful image of Christianity and Beyond Theology. He calls it the most suspenseful game you will ever play. You know, where you have the devil and you have God, and they're fighting for your soul, and he talks about how intensely terrifying Christianity is, and it's pretty cool. And then he talks about how Buddhism can release you from all that. You can just say, like Ellen Watts famously says, when you go up to heaven, you arrive, you know, this big throne, and there's this gigantic figure, it's God. You stand before him to be judged, and he looks at you, and he's got this like mean look on his face. Then all of a sudden he starts laughing and slaps you on the back and says, we were only kidding. It was a joke. And that's Ellen Watts, and that's secular Buddhism. So anyway,
that was brilliant, man. And I we can't top that. No, we'll end on that. I think that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Speed, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for sharing.
I really needed to vent. I apologize. My brain has kind of gone into some nether region in the last 15 minutes. I lost about 5 trains of thought. I
Cappy's in the
apologize
chat.
for that.
He just appeared. They just appeared. I got a mention.
Yeah, this was cathartic. So thank you.
No, I really, really thank you, man, for coming and for choosing me. It was yourself that reached out to me, and then we were going to talk genetics, and it went this way. And thank you very much for using me and knowing that we can come here and you can feel safe to talk about that in the community that we have here. If you need anything from anybody, I could put my hand out and say, reach out. We need a vent, you need talk, you need chat. Definitely.
Well,
thank you very much.
Have me on again about genetics and evolution. That will be fun.
Yes.
So
definitely.
that would
definitely in the near future we will do that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, live chat, for coming. Thank you all to my Patreons that help towards the channel. Oink and subscribe and buttons and all that sort of stuff. So everybody, thank you very much. We will be back next week. Sunday we have Objectively Dan. So come back. That should be fun. Yeah.
I met him.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Everybody, thank you very much. And we will oink. We will, if I can find the button. Oink it out.